Now, our program is consisting of two fabulous, outstanding presenters who have done exemplary work in education, even during COVID and throughout the pandemic in their areas of interest and concern, with very specific implications for all of us in terms of modeling some of our practices or participating in specific projects. And our first speaker is Dr. Eunhee Jung, who many of you will recognize as a leader in education for global citizenship. And although COVID interfered with our activity, working for an International Day of Education for Global Citizenship, she has been undeterred, and her organization, IVECA, has been critically involved in the area of education for global citizenship and a very exciting new educationally oriented project that she's going to tell us about. Dr. Jung, if you could tell us also about IVECA and what you would like all of the participants to know about you and your organization. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Holly. This is really honor for me to have a chance to introduce our organization and what we are doing here. So my understanding is right now introducing our work and also what we are up to these days for a new initiative. So, but I guess I was more prepared to share the very recent initiative we just presented at the CSOC conference. Is that okay to introduce that
Sure,
as well as? Okay,
yes.
right. Thank you so much. So I will then share my presentation for that. Can I have a role to share? Okay, here you go.
And let's just explain what CSOC-D is for those who aren't familiar with our UN jargon and acronyms.
CSOC-D is United Nations Commission on Social Development. This year, especially, they are focusing on promoting the idea to recover from COVID stage and then how to achieve all full SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, through partnership and all means of action. So for that, our organization had created partnership, including private sector, and come up with the idea how to promote global citizenship of young people so that they can take action immediately, not just study now and then maybe we hope next time they're gonna do something. We really try to make the action happens while they are studying. So here is the presentation I shared during the event. So it's this of the event here. So I understood I need to hear this again, but I'm not sure if here are any audience who also joined the event. But if so, you may have questions that you couldn't ask during the session because the session was very short, by the way. So you can have a chance to ask questions. I'll make it in about 10 minutes. So the title is Global Citizenship to Rebuild Sustainable City. But we try to help students to use technology and science to suggest their solutions and also work together with all the multi-stakeholders, including government and private sector who provide eco-friendly technology and science, engineering, and also local NGOs. So as I know, here are many NGOs who is working to handle waste management issue, plastic recycling issue, all lots of climate change related issues. So we would like to collaborate with them by having those students in the center. So the program is going to be like that. This is an education for global citizenship program to rebuild sustainable cities. basically we would like them to tackle waste management issues and pollutions and climate issues. By doing so, students going to build knowledge, skills, attitudes, awareness for environment, because the program will include investigating what's going on in their community, in their countries, in terms of environmental pollutions. So in the meantime, they're going to build this competency. Eventually, we want to foster local and global impact of education for global citizenship. And the participant, we are going to start from the small scale as a pilot, and then we will invite much more youth, students, and all other multi-stakeholders. So university students in environmental studies, we are going to make small team group, 6 to 10 students per team who is studying environmental studies or global governance or science and technology and engineering. They can partner up with students in different countries, of course, using virtual learning platform. And it will take about a semester, but a little longer than a regular university semester. So virtual exchange partnership will happen from March through June this year. It will start soon. Korea and US universities are getting ready, and then we also want to invite other countries. Today, I know there are founders from India running some educational program, also tackling plastic issues in their countries. We would like to also engage them as well, and then their local university students. And at the end, we'll have in-person event at the United Nations to share what they found, what they will find, and then the solution they would like to suggest in terms of implementing technology and engineering science to tackle their environmental issues. It will be, we are thinking of July or September. And in the meantime, we are going to have a series of events to share the progress of students' work as well. The content will be, as I mentioned, it's going to be very interdisciplinary. By having students from different countries share their perspective, we want them to learn from each other's cultural background as well, because depending on their environmental, social, economic, political, historical conditions, students, they may find their issues very locally specific, while also share the similarities as well. The solution also, some solution would work for certain countries, but their own solution may work only for their own community. So they will learn by exchanging their perspectives. That's why it's going to intercultural learning opportunity. And interdisciplinary, we are going to let them use all different areas of studies, including science, technology, engineering, arts, and math that will be integrated to achieve, to come up with a solution to achieve SDGs. So this is kind of very brief visual presentation of their partnership, how they are going to tackle, handle their issues. So for example, let's say California, they have water pollution issue, and also India also have water pollution issue. But the origin of the cause of the water pollution may be different from their background. This place is in California. This is California areas. They had like 1973, long time ago, they had mining business, but they left without cleaning up. So all those pollutants came to ocean area. It was appearing these days, late 20th centuries, and still they are dealing with it. So how they can tackle this issue? They may a little bit different, although the same issue having pollution here in India. there are a lot of unrecycled, thrown garbage, all collected to the river and then came to the ocean. That could be issue. How they can solve this issue by using technology and science. In the meantime, not only just connecting the university team, we are going to provide opportunity for them to get expert mentorship. Some of them can be scientists, maybe from university or NASA, uh, or private sector who actually have technology. One of the technology I could introduce is they have a technology that can incinerate all those collected plastic without causing a lot of air pollution. So collecting is one method, right? And then there are so many, 80%, over 80% actually have not been reused or recycled around the world. And usually what they do, especially in New York, what they do is just incinerate, burn the trash. But that process itself causes a lot of pollution, although it creates energy, electricity, and heat. So by replacing the incineration device, what kind of economic effect, also environmental impact they could have, they will study together. So here another case in New York and Korea, they also have a garbage management, waste management issue. So they're gonna pair up to research and share their environmental issues and then to suggest solution. But in the meantime, we will try to facilitate having this all experts mentorship. So the virtual exchange method will be like that. They will have virtual platform where they can constantly post what they have researched and then receive feedback from other side. And from time to time, we will also arrange them to meet virtually, live virtual meeting like this on the right, you can see. This, in this case, is China and California. They come up with certain idea to generate cool air without using electricity. They apply their science theory, like a Joule-Thomson effect. So the idea is when the air quickly moves from the wide space to the small space, the temperature go down. So the inside, if you install this in the window, then people inside of the window, they will have cool air without any existing electricity or power. So it was one of the solutions to achieve 7 and 13 because it doesn't create any, doesn't use any existing energy. It doesn't cause any air pollution or CO2 emission. So that also equals climate change. So this is one of the example. But not only having students to work together, we will also have experts join this meeting so that they can provide very practical, feasible advice if it's really going to work, and then what other engineering skill or technology can be also implemented to this. So that's one of the example. And then once they develop and then they have a prototype or suggestion ready, then they're going to come to the UN and share internationally with the UN community as well. And basically, the program will be designed for problem solving. Eventually, by taking this process, students will build global citizenship by implementing this activity and key 21st century teaching and learning elements here. Students gonna identify problem and then research what the causes are and what could be possible solutions by brainstorming and come up with many ideas. And then they actually take action. Let's implement. When you implement, what could be the benefit? They're gonna evaluate on their solution. But by the way, it's going to be very small scale at the beginning, but by making this prototype, we would like them to make a broader impact furthermore. And then program will continue by having other universities from different countries. So while they are communicating and working together, what we are going to emphasize is let them constantly communicate through their intercultural cultural perspectives, which means their own perspective, and they still receive their others' feedback on their perspective, so they can constantly have a comparative lens in terms of solving, coming up with a solution. So all activity will include by having collaboration to come up with a solution. They'll increase creativity, and we're going to ask them to think critically instead of just following already existing uh, suggestions. And we always will ask them if it's going to really work in your community. If it's working, why? If it's not, why not? So critical thinking will be involved. And basically what we are emphasizing on in education for global citizenship is to have students to have empathy and compassion on the people in their community and then others, and in the broader community, as well as the environment, the nature. So we will constantly let them share how the people live in that area with that issues, so they can also have compassion to come up with a solution. And at the end, they will have to have responsibility, of course. What they are doing and what they are suggesting will be all the time have an impact. They will see it, what kind of impact they will bring. So they're gonna build a more responsibility as a global citizen. So then at the end, they will learn how to live together. That is the eventual goal of global citizenship education. So this is the last slide I would like to mention why this can really can be helpful to achieve sustainable development goals while students are building intercultural competence of global citizenship. Because this in the middle, it is a model of uh, intercultural competence dimensions, has 5 dimensions. It has to work holistic manner, not just knowledge itself or attitude only, a skill only. It has to work all together. Students need to aware what they have not known, what's going on in their community, and then why they are caring about the community and the nature. It's awareness. Based on that, they will realize what they need to study further. They study further information, knowledge building, and they can have an idea while they are building the knowledge. They realize they had a serious issue in their community. For example, everybody may think if we recycle plastic, all those plastic can be reused. But there has been very much tricky political attempt by business owners to continue to use plastic. Actually, when you see plastic, you think that's recycled number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but only 1 and 2 can be recycled. Most of others cannot be really recycled well. But students or we ourselves may not know that detail yet, right? So those knowledge make them feel, oh, we have to do something. They are motivated to make change, right? That's attitude with passion. And then they come up with the idea, what could be the solution? That's a skill. Instead of just come up with a solution for their own society or their community, by having the partners, they're going to have comparative lens, applying what they learn to be effective for many different countries or communities. That's skill building. So in the whole process, they're gonna have a communication that will build their intercultural language proficiency. All these things coming from their awareness, which is a value-oriented mindset. So that is model of intercultural competence, which is the core competencies of global citizens, and how it can be built, because we are going to partner up university students in 2 different countries. They must have their professional syllabus, and we are going to examine the syllabus and find out common areas of studies, and then redesign that elements in a way students can build this competency. Especially this time, we are trying to make more greener nature by tackling environmental issues. So this will become IVECA's Global Citizenship Education for Greener Earth. That could be the project. So I was asking during the this session, if you are interested, it can be university students, university professor, or MDB, Multilateral Development Bank, because when you are actually implementing education program as well as also a technological solution, you will need funding, right? All our SDG achievement always need ending up with financial support is one of the main requirements to achieve the goals. So same way, if you are belong to or you know some funding resources, you may want to join this partnership and then provide support. And private sector, if you have technology or engineering, it could be helpful for environmental sustainability, then also you can join. So to join this old partnership, you could go either this link by typing tinyurl.com, join IVECA project, or QR code. By scanning this QR code, you can go to this survey form so that you can be part of this educational and environmental movement for SDGs.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
let me finish. Yeah.
Oh. I think also SDG 17 of partnerships is extremely involved here. And before we move on to the next presentation, I just want to let people know, you might not be aware that February 12th was designated by the UN as the International Day of Prevention of Violent Terrorism. And as we know, Education for Global Citizenship was really promoted by our dear friend and colleague, Dr. Eunhee as a solution to prevention of violent terrorism. Our contention is that if all children and students around the world are participants in curricula that involve education for global citizenship, we will then prevent and extinguish violent terrorism. So I'm sure next year we'll have a big event, but that's really at the core of education for global citizenship. We'll have questions at the end of the program session, but Dr. DeMeyer is mentioning that this educational model can be implemented in many other educational systems. And as a nurse, we use a similar model in all of our work at the bedside, at the policy tables, and beyond. So it's an exquisite example of the kinds of partnerships that we can have. So please put your questions in the chat or save them for after the next presentation. The next presenter is Mr. Mazin Mukhtar, who's the co-founder and co-director of Akshar Foundation and the India model of education. We've heard about Akshar before. I'm going to encourage you to spend a lot of time at their new website, because what they've done is very exciting. And I wasn't being facetious when we indicated on the flyer the little NGO that could. I don't know if our international colleagues are familiar with that story of the little engine that could. But Akshar Foundation started as a relatively small and specific intervention for a particular group of children in northern India, really as an intervention around child labor, because there was no education and those children 8, 10, 12 years old were working in dangerous rock quarries. And so the intervention was really focused on them. Their experience and results are so extraordinary that they've been able to shape national policy around education and other areas. And I think that's what we as NGO leaders really hope for, is that we not only do our own particular work, but we can shape local, regional, national, and global policies around the aspirations of the United Nations. So this is an excellent example, not only of SDG 4, but as I reviewed all of the SDGs, and we might have some people who aren't familiar with all 17. To me, the Akshar Foundation really addresses every single one of the 17, and I'm going to read them to you in terms of prevention, reducing, or promoting poverty, hunger, health and well-being, education, gender, water and oceans, clean energy, work, inequality, cities, responsible consumption and production. You'll hear how this NGO addresses that. Climate action, life below water, life in land, peace, justice, and strong institutions, and finally, partnership for the goals. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Mazin Mukhtar. And the presentation will take form of a little information and then a discussion so that he can elucidate how they've been able to accomplish such outstanding results. Mazin Mukhtar.
Holly, thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction.
Mazin, let me just tell everyone that you're joining us from India. And what time is it there now?
8 p.m.
Thank you.
8:10.
Okay.
And thank you for arranging at a suitable time for me. It made it much easier. And thank you so much for inviting me to be here. It's a real honor to be part of this group, and I look forward to participating in the cell. Holly has been one of our main supporters since we were a tiny fledgling NGO, and she's really been instrumental in our growth. So it's really nice to have this session with you. So Akshar Foundation, as Holly said, we set out to create a model school that would specifically address the needs of children in poverty. We observed that, I want to set it up in terms of a Western versus Eastern kind of mindset. And you can see this even in all the different organs of the United Nations. You have UNICEF separately and UNEP separately. It's a very Western kind of idea of dividing any problem into different areas and then addressing it in with specialists. And that's great. And that's how Western medicine also works. But our approach is to focus on the holistic. And so we've developed a deeply Indian kind of perspective on education, and it's based on the education philosophy of Mahatma Gandhi, who espoused a model called Ne Talim. And the essence of that model was that schooling would be focused around livelihoods. All the schooling that a student needs to receive should be based around this vocational and skills development. So essentially at our school, skills development is at the heart of all the programs. And the first vocation that students learn is how to be a teacher. So the students, every day they participate in teaching younger children. And we found that this has dramatically boosted outcomes for not only for the young students who are receiving instruction, but for the older students. So actually I can just show a quick video. In 2019, our model went viral for a policy called plastic school fees. So in addition to the students teaching younger students, we have a number of vocations and trades that the students engage in. And And we designed all of these to get them out of child labor. They were skipping school a lot to go and take up jobs. We found that by offering these this work-centered school, we could attract all of those children back into school. So one of the community development activities that student engaged in is plastic recycling. We have an animal shelter, there's first aid. So even if you come to our school and you see a kid fall and get injured, an older student will run and get the first aid kit and patch them up. If we need new furniture for a classroom, the carpentry students will build the furniture. The students grow crops for their school lunch. So every aspect of the school's needs, the students are participating in and learning and developing their skills. So let me share with you a video.
Bring you a story about Eunhee, the outskirts of Guwahati that is bringing in a paradigm shift of the run, founded by a young couple.
I'm not seeing the screen, Mazin.
Okay,
Here it is.
can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay.
Can we have sound? I'm not hearing it.
No sound. Okay. Still no sound?
No sound.
Let me restart that. Sorry about that. I'll get that right back on track.
The outskirts of Guwahati that is bringing in a paradigm shift.
A little louder.
You can hear? Okay.
Yeah, if she's talking English. Louder.
Has not only reduced dropouts and it has helped stop
Is that better?
Yeah, I don't know if she's speaking English or not. I've seen this before, but I don't know. But
No, it's English.
Poor students earn while they learn, and believe it or not, the tuition fee in school is only accepting plastic waste. Here's Ratneep Chaudhary with a special report.
Akshar Forum School is now made.
Oh, so this is actually a compilation of different news sources from Indian News, Time Magazine, World Economic Forum, BBC, and History Channel. Just snippets out of it. Take about 3 minutes. Oh.
Mandating that students pay for tuition in plastic waste.
थैंक यू जी, ये रखिए। ये क्या है? बिल्कुल। हाँ, तो चलिए आपको दिखाते हैं कि आसाम के
This is a popular Indian actor, comedian, trying to purchase goods with plastic waste, inspired by our plastic school fees. It's a little comedy bit, but it helps with our outreach.
स्कूल में इस प्लास्टिक के बदले में बच्चों को क्या मिलता है?
That plastic is recycled by our teenager students to make eco bricks from the plastic. And those eco bricks we use for different kinds of construction, like we have made a planter at our school. We are also building pathways connecting the classrooms, and in future we want to build a toilet with the eco bricks.
I can say and write what I did this morning.
एक और OMG वाली बात ये है कि यहाँ के बड़े बच्चे छोटे बच्चों को पढ़ाते भी हैं।
These two boys are both orphans. They're not related, but so they don't have anyone at home who's supporting them in their education. But with this peer learning model where the older students coach the younger ones every day, we've been able to make sure that all of the young students have this one-on-one individual attention, which is really vital for their progress. And the older students, they get kind of work experience, they get leadership skills, confidence. They're really happy when they teach a younger student a new skill, and they're proud, and they say, oh, I taught him how to add, I taught her how to read. So it's a really powerful tool, and it leads to really dramatic improvements in learning outcomes as well. And by doing this every day, the older students develop a lot of empathy and patience and compassion. So we've seen really violent kind of antisocial teenagers be transformed into responsible community leaders.
Can you turn your volume up, Mazin?
Sure. Let me just finish the video. Goal was to create a school that would teach the conventional subjects, math, English, science, but combine that with vocational training so that they learn valuable job skills.
जैसे carpentry, embroidery, farming or gardening.
We bring to you a story about a unique school.
So after we got this kind of, can you hear me, Holly?
Yes.
After we got international recognition, and the World Economic Forum called us one of the best ideas of 2019, that really made it easy for the government to just invite us into their schools. And so for the last 2 years, we've been working to spread this model in government schools. And the government passed a new policy, which calls for sustainable schools with a focus on vocational training, sustainability, technology. So all the aspects of our program were integrated into this new national education policy. The government had opened up a portal to NGOs all over the country to send in suggestions. So I'm sure we're not the only NGO that influenced this, but we were one of the most prominent globally. And because of partnerships with the UN and this attention from various news sources, the government was it really made it really easy to facilitate a partnership with the government. I'll show you one more short video. We were also contacted by the University of Oxford, who are sending interns every year to participate in this implementation of an Indian education model in schools, which is almost a reparative measure, since most schools in India are based on British colonial systems. And it's our feeling that it's not appropriate for the context here, and what they need is a more hands-on approach. So this is a video from one of the Oxford graduates who came, and has some more recent photos. So I want to share that.
Hello, my name is Leon. I'm from Belgium and I recently completed my studies at Oxford, and I'm currently doing an internship here at Akshar. I've been here for 5 weeks, and I must say I'm quite impressed by the Indian educational model. First of all, by its way of assessing students. I think it's totally right about grouping students according to their skills and not their age. I think it allows for faster and more targeted progress. I also think that their model of older students teaching younger students is excellent. I think that it works for both sides of the exchange. The younger students have a role model to which they can look up. It's also a diversified way of approaching education, and the older students have a direct way of learning professionalism, work, and how to earn as well, and learn to transmit knowledge. I think is a wonderful skill to have. I also appreciate the fact that the Indian educational model uses technology strongly. I think that prepares their students for the ever-evolving world in which we live. And I also think that it stimulates the curiosity of the students. The vocational training that students follow daily as well is quite impressive. I can see how it teaches students not only a concrete skill that they can then put to use if they want to straight after school, but also makes them well-rounded and benevolent citizens of our world. And finally, I think the emphasis that Akshar and the Indian education model puts on sustainability is crucial for the world we live in now.
So this shows weekly plastic school fees collection, which is happening in our model school now and in government schools. And now we're collecting upwards of 15,000 units of plastic each month. Most of it is used to make eco bricks because, as Dr. Jung explained, most of the plastic is not recyclable, but we can upcycle it into eco bricks. And some of the plastic, now we've developed a plastic recycling workshop in the school, and we're building in government schools that will allow the students to take certain types of plastic and create new products from the plastic and design products. So now our students are making flower planters, dog bowls, things like that.
That the generation school care.
That's an eco brick construction.
Amazing. I think
This is the precious plastic workshop. These are designs, open source designs from the Netherlands, actually, from a company called Precious Plastic. We had machinists build it here, but this enables the students to shred plastic and create new products. They learn about using machines. They can be creative with designing the new products. And of course, they're addressing the scourge of plastic waste that's in their communities.
Learning about concrete solutions that's
Here you can see bottle caps, plastic bag. It's all identified by the type of plastic. So students are also learning a lot in the process of sorting and identifying plastics. And the name Precious Plastic is actually very well named because the students and teachers are now out hunting and seeking plastic as a raw material to use to make these new products like this flower planter that you can see here. So it literally, in the minds of our students and teachers, turns plastic into a precious commodity instead of something to be dumped in the waters.
to the problem. So yeah, I had learned and read about this model prior to coming, and I must say that probably the most powerful aspect is seeing it in action, not only seeing how it's put into place every day, but also seeing the concrete impact that it has on the students who have been schooled here sometimes up to 6 years back. They have grown into independent learners and very confident and assertive students, and most of all, they seem happy to be learning here. So I'm really impressed by what I've seen, what I've experienced. So yeah, I'm impressed and honored to have spent some time here learning, and I'm eager to take some of the ideas and concepts seen here back to Europe and hopefully apply them my next teaching.
We bring to you a
The outskirts of Guwahati that is
Sorry.
in a paradigm shift.
Thank you,
So,
Matt.
that intern's actually just started a teaching position in the UK. So we are hoping to kind of export these concepts. Just in conclusion, I'll say that the students see the school as not just a place for learning. It's where they go for food relief if there's food shortages. It's where they go for healthcare if they need to see a doctor. We help them get their legal documents if they don't have birth certificates, if they don't have whatever they need to register for colleges, or they come to us for work opportunities because they need income to buy basic necessities. So the school is really a sustainable, holistic community. And because of that, the students have so much trust in their teachers and in this community that we're building, that anytime there's a missing child in the community, child trafficking is a big problem in this region. And anytime there's been 2 cases of girls missing from the community. One wasn't a student, but our students rushed to our school and reported it, and then we could partner with the police and get those girls back. So when you have this trust of not just being a school, but being a center that meets all the needs holistically of the children, then safeguarding children from violence and trafficking becomes easier. We've also rehomed 2 girls who are being abused, and we've had their abusers arrested and jailed. And that's because of this trust that we've built with these students. And even the government reaches out to us now because we've created these relationships. So when the government needs to issue IDs or something, they come to our school, or when they want to give vaccinations, they come to our school. So it's a really powerful tool for solving all of these problems. And our belief is that to address these problems, it can't just be one at a time. It has to be a kind of holistic solution.
Thank you, Mazin. As you can see, we could spend all day just talking about the specifics of this program, and we will have time next month to do that. I encourage you all to go to the Akshar website, where the motto is teaching children to save the world. And I think some key components that are really important is that, one, these committee and commission events, like Commission on the Status of Women or Social Development, are not designed for one group to teach another, for higher resource countries to teach these poor, under-resourced countries, but really an exchange. And it's thrilling. I have goosebumps when a lower resource country is able to share and teach a higher resource country new creative ideas based on Dr. Jung's model that's improved. So the fact that students from Oxford are going back and implementing these strategies in Europe, I think really points to the importance of what we do together. And the other aspect is that part of quality education that we don't have an opportunity to talk about enough is the education and training and sustainability of qualified teachers. And Mazin can tell you, and I can tell you from my experience in Cambodia and other countries, that the lack of qualified teachers is the most serious impediment to quality education. So the fact that we hopefully are raising a sustainable teaching workforce on a national level is very encouraging. And I have to say also, in our nursing program or pre-nursing program, the same is relevant, that we intend to really develop a sustainable national nursing workforce to meet the needs of that country. So there's so much that we can learn from this model that is really exciting and inspirational. I wonder if you can, we need to close to the next section, but I wonder, Mazin, if you can just talk a little bit about working with governments, because as I indicated before, we all hope to shape national policy. We don't necessarily feel in sync with governments, and some of the governments that we have to deal with have major challenges for altruists and high integrity folks like us in terms of corruption, mismanagement, all of those kinds of things. So that becomes a huge challenge. Do you have any advice or suggestions on working with a government with whom we may or may not agree on all points?
Yeah, great question. And I'll tell you what it's required is for us to learn diplomacy. When we came into the schools, we were pretty headstrong in the beginning and arrogant and very focused on the children, which, you know, you'd think that's the right way to go. But that did create so much resentment from the teachers that it made our project impossible. So at some point, you do have to choose between pure idealism and kind of practical realpolitik of kind of dealing in the realm of possibility instead of dealing in, you know, all the ideals that we may want. So now our focus is, so because we only have one small school, we realized the only way to implement these changes at large is to train government teachers in the government schools, because the schools are there, the teachers are there. We just need to bring them along and convince them, you know, of this new model. So now I'm sharing some pictures of government school teachers and leaders implementing some of our programs. These are tablet classes. Can you see this?
Yes.
And students love learning on tablets. We use the tablets as kind of a reward for their bringing plastic and participating in tree planting and different things like that. And we use worksheets to improve the classroom structure. So this picture I like, it's a very traditional teacher who's demonstrating on the tablets. And that's because we took time with the teachers before coming into the schools to make sure they knew how to use all the tech and make sure they knew all the parts of the program. This is a government teacher using our smart class software, which uses Assamese language. We focus on local languages first. Here's peer learning happening with the older students, coaching the younger ones. And this is a real, character builder for sure. Here's plastic school fees in the government schools. Eco-bricks, eco-brick construction, farming and gardening. And we connect all these vocations to math class, to biology class, science class, link the practical learnings with the academics that they're learning. Eventually, we want the students to make their own school uniforms, or some students who are into fashion. The students work in a print shop, printing worksheets every day. So yeah, the government system is tricky to work with, but we figured it out in the last year, and it requires patience and just focusing on building the capacity of teachers instead of us implementing directly.
So that's a very eloquent example of what Dr. Jung was talking about in terms of cultural awareness and sensitivity. Even within one's own culture, there certainly are many nuances. So we could spend so much time. I think we have so much to learn from you and your colleagues in terms of what we talk about as citizen diplomacy. And that's something that all NGOs really need to develop. That will be a key, I think, in being able to move forward our own strategies and agendas in local, regional, national, and global governments. So thank you very much. Let's spend just a couple of minutes. Are there any questions or comments for Dr. Jung or for Mr. Mukhtar?
Hi.
Hi.
It's so glad to be here, everyone. Both of your presentations were very inspirational.
Hey, could you introduce yourself?
Oh, sure. Thank you. I'm Faye Paris. I am with the Women's Bar Association for the state of New York. I co-chair the International Women's Rights Committee, but I also am involved with another entity, Global Justice Advocates, PLLC. And what I wanted to say is it's actually, first of all, commend both of you for the work that you've done. I have a question specifically for Mazin. I commend you for the work that you're doing. It's multidisciplinary and it also engages the issue of justice, and it's very holistic. Does it, and you said that children who don't have parents or they just don't have the means for education are given access. I would imagine that this applies regardless of the implications of caste discrimination within the context of the of India and the legacies that are left behind. If that is the case, if you could speak to that, what role does the government have in also helping those populations that have been disenfranchised and separated? Thank you.
Sure, great question. Yeah, that's a big challenge. We face that even among our student body, who are all considered lower caste, but even among that lower caste, there are subdivisions, and there are students who are bullied for that, including parents who are bullied by other parents. We had some parents saying, "Don't send your kids to the same school that my kids are going to." So we've had to address all of these problems head on. We do use some degree of public shaming to call out people who are casteist like that. And we have this system of rewards for the students where they earn points. It's almost like a currency, like a salary. They earn points for doing different things, like teaching younger students. If you're teaching algebra, you'll earn more points than if you're teaching counting. And the students were pretty transparent about like the point earning system, but they see that the girls are earning as much points as the boys, sometimes more. They see that the lower caste children are earning more in whatever field that they excel in. So we can use our point system essentially to distribute value to the students based on what they're contributing, and we can use that to undermine their prejudices that they may have, whether it's anti-girl prejudice or sexism or casteism or whatever the case may be. So we really now have, although the bullying I mentioned was at the beginning, and now there's it's a really harmonious professional environment because the students are kind of coming into work. You'll just see kids of all ages walking around doing different projects. Somebody compared it to Montessori, a similar kind of model, but the focus here is on earning potential. What we found was the children who were engaged in child labor, they wanted to work because they need money, because they need things. They need slippers, they need food, they need clothes. So they never saw labor as a bad thing. It's a necessity. But we've been able to incorporate that economic element and subvert the problems in this society.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I remember, Mazin, that in the beginning, there were many issues of colorism and real antisocial behavior among the students that you tackled immediately. And we never hear about that anymore, because we could talk on end, about that. The transformation of antisocial behavior, some of which was dangerous and certainly all of which was very hurtful, into a sense of community responsibility and active citizenship. That was a remarkable achievement, I think.
Yeah, we had a recent case of one of our star pupils, this girl. She suddenly started bullying one of our disabled students, and it was so out of character. But we have a kind of a system of like trial, like a court system of accusations and discussion and defense. And in this process, it emerged that she was being abused by her stepfather at home. So we could find what was the cause of her bullying. And then we contacted the police and addressed that problem and fixed her home situation. And now those two girls are best friends again. So yeah, there's a lot of power in that schools can do if they incorporate this holistic social work kind of framework.
That I think another time when we have more time, we'll discuss the implications for really, again, back to trafficking, teaching the community and having the interventions not only school focused, but really reaching out to the whole community who, I know were implicated in some of the trafficking situations, and that merits further discussion. Are there other questions that we need to address? I think all of you can see that spending time with these leaders in innovative, creative, and very much productive educational models is really valuable for all of us. And we look forward to hearing more about that.